So they are saying Zoom is using the content of your calls to train the AI systems. This is what is being talked about all over LinkedIn this week. And there are two topics here which I wanted to discuss because both are within the area of my general interest. I've been a contracts lawyer for over 16 years. I've been drafting, revising contracts. On the other hand, for the last 5 years, I've been in AI policy and regulation of AI and personal data. And the topics that which we are discussing here are like around contracts and AI at the same time. So, what Zoom has actually done is they have changed their terms of service. Actually, they did that back in April this year, but for some reason, the news has gained traction only now. And if you take a look at the terms of service which they offer to you, you will see three important clauses there. Clause 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4. And this is what we'll be discussing briefly. So basically, one of them is about the use of service generated data. This is what they call like product use data and whatever like is about who did a call to whom, when, and so on, like metadata about the call, right? And they're telling us they have a right to use this for whatever purposes they think fit. So basically, it's pretty much unlimited for what purpose they can use it. On another topic, customer inputs, they call anything which you provide to the service by like means of using it. Actually, that should normally include any calls you are making, any chat messages you are sending, on whatever you are inputting into the service for further transmission to your audience or to whoever you're speaking to. So this customer input and whatever Zoom makes out of it, like what when it generates video or stream or whatever transcribing services they are now offering to transcribe the content of the call. So this they call in conjunction with what you provide customer content. So this includes customer input and whatever they generate. And they are saying that yeah, basically they have a perpetual royalty-free, transferable, sublicensable license to use this stuff actually for whatever is not expressly forbidden by law. This is what their clause 10.3 of the terms of service says. They can process the customer content for whatever purpose which is not like expressly forbidden. They say whatever is permitted or required by law. That means like if the law permits something, if it doesn't forbid them from doing something, like they can do it, right? So this is what they are saying to us. This is what they can do with the content of the calls, and also because this is not included. This is not excluded. Sorry, and then in clause 10.4 they say that yeah, you the user, you grant us like this license for whatever derivatives we may create based on what you have provided to us and so on. And uh, basically uh, mm, they have tried to address some concerns at the beginning of this week. And those who follow the Zoom's terms of service, they may have noticed that there was a slight change, so which was not present in the April version of the terms, but uh, they've added a small sentence only this Monday, which basically states that Zoom will not use audio, video, or chat customer content to train our artificial intelligence models without your consent. This is what they say now. But I urge you to consider the wording here, like to train our artificial intelligence models. That means like as they are uh, extorting, I would say, in my perception, this perpetual, very broad license from you to use like the content of your calls, for example, in particular. They are not preventing from uh, granting a company like OpenAI or any other competitor who is capable of processing that information to train their models on it. Yeah, Zoom says that yeah they will not use this information to train their artificial intelligence models, but they do not. They do not say that they are prevented from having someone else do that, right? Um, so obviously, this is what their terms of service say, and this may be a problem, not necessarily to everyone, but I think at least this is a matter of public concern, because Zoom is not just an average company; it's an infrastructure company, I would argue, because a lot of people use Zoom and depend on Zoom among other essential applications uh, to have some conferences, to have some webinars or whatnot. Like it's everywhere. Zoom is everywhere. It's basically by now internet infrastructure application. So it's not that your like average company. So and minding that, I would say this the wording which they provide, the scope of the license, they are, I would say, extort from you, because you have no real ability to withdraw from that or to decline that invitation to provide license, so to say. Yeah, you are either using the service or not using it. So this is your actual option, like their way or highway. So the problem here, uh, the main problem here for me is like, yeah, what could be understandable and could be even acceptable, perhaps with a smaller company where you, I mean, you don't necessarily control a large portion of a market, and yeah, you can do pretty much whatever you want in your terms of service. But if you are controlling a huge chunk of a market, it might be a problem for you, like to have such an unfair contract term embedded. This is one consideration. Another consideration, I would say an important one as well, that they are not actually committing to, let's say, de-identify the data which they're using before they want to train the AI model or whatnot. And for me, this presents a problem. That so yeah, they are saying that you grant them a license, but there is no contractual stipulation that would require them to, say, de-identify the data, like to decouple the personal information from non-personal, and like at least make sure that before the AI model is trained on your data, you cannot be identified, right? And we know it's a huge problem nowadays with those uh, popular large language models being trained on whatever they exist on the internet, and then they sometimes have a tendency to spew personal information which may be even incorrect and so on. And we heard about such cases. So there is no guarantee that Zoom will be committed to de-identifying, like decoupling the personal information from the other parts of the content, if they even like will be using that to, let's say, improve their services or whatnot. So that no commitment on their part, all commitment from your part, yeah, from the users, but no commitment from Zoom to make like the minimum effort in this regard to protect their customers. So this is a problem for me. And to speak about the what they call service generated data, like the data about the use of service, like this can be sensitive too, like what some would call metadata, like who called whom, when, and for what was the duration of the call, and what uh, might be like the observed tendencies of a particular person to call someone at a particular period during the year or whatnot. So this information, which they saying like they can use for whatever purpose they like, this may be pretty sensitive, and it might be a huge deal actually. So this is an additional problem for me if I'm revising this, considering these terms like for myself. And it's a matter of concern, I think, for every regulated profession like lawyers, doctors, and psychotherapists, and so on. Uh, yeah. So, and what I would say the overarching problem here is like it's really bad contract drafting. As a contracts lawyer, as a contract so lawyer who drafted a lot of contracts in my life, I can say this is like the quality of the terms of service, terms and conditions. Like I would say it's pretty bad compared like to what might be said like as best practices nowadays in terms of what can you do to make the contract user friendly, like accessible to people of different backgrounds and so on. It's not that. So the Zoom's terms of service are not at all user centric. They're not focused on explaining to users stuff, like they're very like I would say lawyer centric. They are not human readable. They are lawyer readable. They are not human readable. So, and this like facilitates this confusion which they had around those terms and services. And like this is why we are all discussing it here, because uh, if they took like some effort to draft their terms of service more like clearly, and make them more accessible, and like make the presentation more up to modern standards of contract drafting, I mean likely they could have avoided this issue of trying to then explain that what they meant, what they didn't mean by the wording that they introduced. So my advice to Zoom would be some companies which are in a similar position, like you should really like think again about how you are drafting your client facing documents, legal documents, client facing legal documents. This is important stuff. Like you cannot do them those documents in the way lawyers drafted contracts in the 1990s. It's no longer acceptable. You must make your terms of service and whatever other client fancy documentation you have on the site like user friendly, accessible, easily readable. All bottom line should be upfront, like, and you should really take effort to revise the documents you have. Apart from what we have discussed earlier, this is like about the fairness of the terms themselves, like the content, but the format also matters. So, guys, revise the contract, revise the terms of service, revise it content wise to make it more fair to users, and design wise to make it readable, human readable.